And there we have it, folks. It is Wednesday night. It is 7 o'clock. And guess what? It's time for the South Carolina Normal Cannabis Conversation. Um, we're going to give it a couple of minutes here to see if we can let some people start entering into the chat here, or into the podcast, should I say. As you come on in, you're welcome to give a little hi, hello in our chat there. Leave us a little chat. And we will get moving on here in just a moment. All right. Yeah, we're coming up on 7:02. So as usual, I'm going to kind of start with our um, disclaimer that all of our meetings are an environment of education and awareness and are not an open market for the sale, purchase, or distribution of cannabis. We do not encourage or condone illegal behavior of any kind. All righty. First in we have DJ Josh Griffin here. Hey, Josh, thanks for joining. We are going to probably have a somewhat abbreviated call tonight for a couple of reasons. Main reason is I am not in my office. As you can see, I am in a guest room. Um, I am not at home, not in my office at the moment. So I don't have my normal resources available. I'm not at my computer. I'm on an iPad. I do have my cell phone open next to me with some legislative info. So we're going to wing it tonight as best as we can. As you all may or may not recall, this is the second Wednesday of the month. And on the second Wednesday of the month, we always do our public monthly meeting, open to the public. And our agenda for today, although I don't have it listed anywhere here offhand, generally runs that we'll talk a little bit about what's going on at the federal level legislatively with cannabis, what is going on here and the state level in South Carolina, and also if there's any new and or exciting local information on cannabis laws and or ordinances and that kind of thing. So, where do I want to start? Well, of course, we're going to start with national stuff. And as you may or may not know, what I like to do a lot of times to see what's going on nationally, and this doesn't always populate real quickly or timely, but congress.gov on your browser, type in congress.gov. You'll get to the congress.gov page, and there's a search bar where you can search for the word marijuana. That will bring up all kinds of information, not just bills. It'll bring up other correspondence and things like that that may have to do with marijuana. It will also be bringing that stuff up for the 118th Congress, which is our current one, and the 117th Congress. You can go through the filter buttons, turn off the 117th, and you will come up with 4 current bills for referring to marijuana at the federal level right now. So we're going to kind of go through them as best as we can. I don't have a whole lot of information on some of these with the federal with the U.S. Congress. Actually, they started in January, but it takes them a while to start getting these bills submitted. We're still waiting for Nancy Mace's bill, the States Reform Act, to be resubmitted. We're still waiting for the MORE Act, the COA, Cannabis Opportunity and Administration Act. But anyway, we do have 4 bills out there, and I'm going to start right off the bat. Oh, before I go too far, let me just say hello to Rico Rex. Welcome, and thank you for joining us tonight, as well as welcome Chase the Pen for joining us on the call tonight. Oh, and as you may have noticed, usually our second Wednesday call, many a times Vaughn may join us, but I don't believe she's going to again be joining us tonight. Her big event with her work has now been, I believe, wrapped up just in the past day or so. So she's probably winding down, catching her breath, kind of trying to refresh, I guess is the word I'm looking for. We do hope to have Vaughn back with us, VP back with us next week. So we're all looking forward to that. All right, let me get back to this. The first bill on my list that I see when I go to congress.gov and I do a little bit of search for marijuana is HR 610. That's a House bill, HR 610, sponsored by Gregory Staub out of a Republican out of Florida, representative Republican out of Florida, Florida's 17th district. And this one is in the House Energy and Commerce and Judiciary Committee. It was referred to committee on January 27th, and there is not even a synopsis, a brief of what this bill is about. If you click on the bill number, it will take you over to, it takes me over to a new page, and the new page basically gives me no other information except to say that a summary is coming. But there is no summary at this point. Actually, yeah, summary is in progress. So I can't really even tell you anything about HR 610 because I got no clue. There's nothing in the name of the bill, which is called the 1 to 3 Act of 2023. That doesn't mean anything to me. So yeah. Oh, never mind. I know what that is. That's a rescheduling bill to reschedule marijuana from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3. Okay. Duh. Okay. Now I got it. HR 610, a rescheduling bill. Not descheduling, rescheduling from 1 downgrade to Schedule 3, still keeping it on the Controlled Substances Act drug schedule, not what we're looking for as far as NORML's efforts. We are looking for complete descheduling, removing completely from the drug schedule. So, took me a moment to catch up. I knew that bill was out there, and I'm just, like I said, I'm not in my office. I'm not in my element tonight. So I do apologize. I really blew that one. The 1 to 3 Act. Yes, they're trying to reschedule from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3. That is in committee. That has gone nowhere to this point. And there is not even, like I say, a summary on congress.gov yet on that bill. That is one that if you do wish to write to your representatives and bring it to their attention, I would say bring it to their attention and please and ask them, beg them, please do not in any way support or co-sponsor this bill. Better off staying silent and not even bringing the bill to their attention, depending on who your legislators are, obviously. But in many cases, better off just not bringing it to somebody's attention. All right, I'm going to scroll on down to the second one, unless I see in the comments that maybe anybody has any questions on HR 610, the 1 to 3 Act of 2023. Take a quick peek here in comments, see if we see anything. All right, if I see something pop up on that in a few minutes, I will bring it to your all attention. But in the meantime, I am going to move on a little bit here to House Bill HR 394. HR 394 is a Veterans Cannabis Use for Safe Healing Act that has been sponsored by, again, Gregory Staub of Florida, is a Republican in Florida's 17th district. This has been referred to a subcommittee on health. And let me just see if I can find you a real quick brief on that one. This bill prohibits the Department of Veterans Affairs from denying a veteran any VA benefit due to participation in a state-approved marijuana program. For veterans participating in these approved programs, the VA must ensure its healthcare providers, 1, discuss marijuana use with such veterans and adjust treatment plans accordingly, and 2, record such use in the veteran's medical records. So that is HR 394, looking to permit veterans to use cannabis under a state-approved medical marijuana program if they happen to live in such a state, and then requiring that caregivers discuss marijuana use with those veterans, and also to record the fact that those veterans are using medical cannabis. I'm not sure how I feel about that recording of it. Um, I mean, of course, if we keep those records confidential and they're not giving personal information out of it, um, it would probably be useful information to find out how many vets are utilizing cannabis. Again, that is a Republican sponsored bill, and that is in the Subcommittee on Health, referred there on February 8th. And again, that just affects veterans. I'm assuming it may say in there, and I didn't go through the summary any further. It doesn't go on at this point. If any of the other full text includes any limitations like 28 grams or less or something like that, which I'm assuming it may, but I don't want to say it does because I don't know. That is HR 394, known as the Veterans Cannabis Use for Safe Healing Act. All right, I see no questions came up on that last bill, the 1 to 3 Act. So again, folks, if you have any thoughts, questions, comments, and or concerns about HR 394, the Veterans Cannabis Use for Safe Healing Act, leave your questions or comments in the comment section, and we will address them if we see that. Otherwise, again, I am going to move forward to the next bill on the list. And the next bill, again, another House bill, is HR 363. This one we're going to see a lot of support for out of South Carolina. This is the Second Amendment Protection Act. Let's see if I can give you a summary on this one. But basically what this one is to protect the Second Amendment rights of cannabis consumers that are accessing their cannabis through a legal cannabis program in their state. Summary in progress. So no, it does not have an actual summary yet. But yeah, HR 363, the Second Amendment Protection Act. That I hear quite often when I'm talking to some of our supporters, I guess is the best way to phrase it, to some of our supporters, that I've heard many say, I wouldn't get my medical program if it means jeopardizing my Second Amendment rights. Matter of fact, when I was in Pennsylvania still, before moving to South Carolina, I would listen to some of the people. It was not medical, was not legal at that point, but I was still hearing people say that same kind of thing, that, if it's going to affect my Second Amendment rights, I am not going to get a medical card, that kind of thing. I've known some people where maybe, the husband gets his concealed carry permit and the wife gets the medical card, and they kind of work around a little bit that way. And to be quite honest with you folks, from my understanding, you're better off just not checking the box or not saying you have a gun, or that not giving them more information than you have to. Yeah. And again, in states, I believe like Pennsylvania, and I could be mistaken about Pennsylvania itself, but I know many of the states that have started their medical program and had made a point about people and their Second Amendment rights, have worked on rescinding that in those particular states. And as you can see here, we have a federal bill that wants to address that. And I would like to see that addressed for all you that like to, exercise your Second Amendment rights. I will be honest with you. I mean, I own some guns, but I'm not one to normally carry. I just don't feel the need, But that doesn't mean that we don't have a Second Amendment right under the Constitution. So, and as you all know, if I haven't said it enough times yet, and in essence, South Carolina NORML is a civil rights, civil liberties organization fighting for your rights and your civil liberties, your civil rights and your civil liberties, and focused on your civil rights and civil liberties as they relate to cannabis consumption. All right. That was the Second Amendment Protection Act, H.R. 363. Hey, Josh, can you show me a picture where the plant hurt you? Well, I got to tell you one time, Josh, I mean, I was lighting a joint, a seed popped and it fell and it burned my leg. I probably have a teeny tiny little burn scar. Okay, maybe I singed an eyebrow out while lighting a bong one time. Uh, yeah, the damage. Oh, my. Oh, all right. Second Amendment Protection Act, H.R. 363. All right. Last bill that we have to talk about on the federal level side is a Senate bill, no, I just moved it around, S326, VA Medical Cannabis Research Act of 2023, sponsored by John Tester, Democrat out of Montana. It doesn't give his district. Is in the Senate Veterans Affairs Committee. And let's see if they have a summary on this one for us. No. But again, this one, just by the title, VA, Veterans Affairs Medical Cannabis Research Act of 2023, that will pretty definitely deal with cannabis research by the VA. So that's what we got for federal level stuff at the moment. Not a whole lot. I mean, 3 out of the 4 don't even have a summary drafted yet and posted. All are in committee. I would say if you support any of these, I mean, these veterans bills, I wouldn't mind seeing moved forward. Excuse me, write your legislators, reference these bill numbers to them, ask them to act, support, if they're bills that you feel that they need to be supported. Be quite honest with you, the 1 to 3 bill, 1 to 3 act, I wouldn't mention it. I don't support it. Our organization doesn't support it. If you feel differently, write to your legislator and ask them to support it. But let me just back here one page. Those are the 3 bills that I got federal level right now. The 1 to 3 Act, rescheduling, the Veterans Cannabis Use for Safe Healing Act, H.R. 394, the Second Amendment Protection Act, H.R. 363, and the VA Medical Cannabis Research Act, S326. All right. Federal legislation stuff. Now, that's a bulk of it, but there were a couple things. Let's see if I can find where I put them on my screen. I thought I had a couple of tabs opened up on this thing somehow. Might be another browser. I don't want that. I want. Oh, yeah. A couple of things I did want to talk about, and I'm going to quick run out to the NORML Nationals website just to refresh my memory on a couple of these things. First one, most recent news. Oklahoma had a adult use ballot measure on the vote yesterday, legalization ballot measure, and it failed. Let's see if it gives me any numbers here. I'm going to pop into the blog post and see if I can get a little bit more info on that one. The majority of the voters decided Tuesday against a citizens-initiated measure. Now, when we talk citizens-initiated measure, that means somebody went out and collected a whole bunch of, generally collected a whole bunch of signatures on petitions to get, that's a citizens-initiated, that sought to legalize adult use marijuana market and provide legal relief to those with cannabis-related convictions. The vote took place in a special election, an unusual circumstance that may have impacted its chances of success. Yeah, I mean, generally these reform ballots, these ballot initiatives are during a general election. So yeah, I could have thrown it off this time of year in a special election. It may have been a bit more of a challenge to get voters out to vote. Um, However, the Secretary of State states the vote took place in a special election that may have impacted his chances. In July, advocates for SQ 810 turned in nearly twice the total number of signatures necessary to qualify the initiative for the 2022 general election ballot. It doesn't say that, but that's what it means. However, the Secretary of State's office took an excessive amount of time to ultimately verify proponents' signatures. So that's just an example of the government obstructing the citizens' efforts to make change in their law. So, because of that obstruction of the excessive amount of time to verify the signatures, they ended up putting it on a special election, which could have jeopardized its chances. I would have really rather seen it just go on to the 2023 generals, but you know, it wasn't up to me. In October, Republican Governor Kevin Stitt issued the executive proclamation calling for this week's special election. The governor had been vocal in his opposition to legalization, all the reason why he probably called for a special election, stating that it's not right for Oklahoma. Voters ultimately decided against the measure by a margin of 62 to 38%. So that's a pretty good spread, folks. I mean, that's a 24-point spread. So that's a significant spread. Okay, it's not saying how many voters turned out with those kind of numbers. It does mention that in 2018, Oklahomans voted in favor of allowing medical cannabis access. The state now has one of the most robust medical programs in the nation and has an estimated 400,000 residents that are registered to access cannabis from state licensed dispensaries. So, federal level news, Oklahoma has been voted out. I thought there were two other states that had, oops, um, initiatives, but I am not seeing any reports back on those two yet. Um, Let me just look at this other story real quick if this has anything to do with any new with those two. Yeah, okay. Um, the other story I'm looking at is our national chapter executive director, um, Eric Altieri, is stepping down after roughly 6 years, a little over 6 years or so, as executive director of National. He had also been for a previous 8 years or so before that, the communication director at National. Um, from what we're seeing in the stories and reports, he does plan on continuing his efforts in working towards marijuana law reform and some other efforts, and no longer with NORML at this point. So more interesting news probably for me than for some of our supporters and followers on what's going on with staff and things at National, but I would throw that in there real quick. The other thing that's out there on the Nationals blog, updated just today, state policy. And if you go to that one, and again, I can't share links with you today, folks. I do apologize. I'm just not at my home computer to be able to copy and paste links. I'm looking at some of the stuff on my phone and telling you about it. So if you have the ability to go check out, um, NORML's blog, go to the State Policy Weekly Update for March 8th. And we're going to scroll down into that one just a little bit as we get down to medical access headline, and then says nothing about South Carolina. That must have been last week. There was one on last week that talked about the Compassionate Care Act, which I believe now is number S423. was moved out of committee. Let me go look at update for March 1st, I think it was then. Medical Access, Senate Bill 3, North Dakota, South Carolina, there we go. So S 423, which is known as the Senate Medical Affairs, which was passed out of the Senate Medical Affairs Committee. It's really all it says about it. H3226, H3486, and S423 all seek to authorize the use of medical cannabis or medical marijuana in South Carolina. If passed, these bills would not only authorize the use of medical marijuana, but also would create numerous protections for registered patients, caregivers, and physicians. Further, the Put Patients First Act, which is the one we support more but don't expect to go anywhere, prohibits schools, landlords, and employers from discriminating against people who register to engage in the medical use of marijuana. Yeah. I also forgot to bring my water. So, if nothing else, I heard a few weeks back that they were expecting the S423 to move out of committee. I want to say that may have been in maybe mid-February. It took a little bit longer. I think it took a week or two longer, maybe 2 weeks longer, at least a week, for it to actually move out of committee. But it has since moved out of committee. As far as I know, of all the marijuana-related bills here in the state, that is the only one that has gotten any action so far, that has moved anywhere. And now is probably a perfect time for me to remind you all, if you go to our website at scnormal.org, go to one of the drop-down menus that says get involved or something like that, and find the Take Action button. Open up the Take Action page, and that will take you to our action alerts. There are action alerts out there for the some federal action, some federal legislation, I believe. I'll have to double check. There might be one out there for that Second Amendment one already, and the veterans ones. Also, you'll see down below there will be action alerts for all of the South Carolina legislation that we are supporting. Some might be for descheduling, like Senate Bill 211. Some might be for that, that referendum on the ballot to see what voters want as far as medical or cannabis or recreational cannabis goes, and we'd love to see those move forward. The only way we're going to see those move forward is if you write to your legislators and you ask your legislators to support those bills and to try and get those bills moved forward. When I do get back into my office, as a matter of fact, this coming week, I will be looking at what committee those are in and seeing if I can build a small database of those legislators, of those committee members, that we could do an action alert for that particular bill directly to those committee members. I'd love to see that moved forward to give the voters a chance to have their say. I'm going to back out of that one for a moment. As far as South Carolina goes, I think that's kind of it. One other thing I did want to kind of mention at federal level that I forgot to when we were talking federal stuff. The Justice Department website this week, and I think that was like on the 3rd or the 4th of March. Actually, this went out on the 3rd. Has opened their portal for people that are seeking presidential pardon certificates for their marijuana arrest, federal marijuana arrests. So the Justice Department is moving forward from that. Was it a letter, a statement from the president a while back about pardoning? There is now a portal open where people can fill out the documentation if they are seeking a presidential pardon certificates. All right, now let me get back to state level real quick. As I mentioned, the Compassionate Care Act has moved. It is now on the Uh, Hopefully, we will get a floor vote and we can get it moved out of the Senate and back over to the House. We're still quite a ways away from the crossover date, which I think comes in mid-April. I don't know when the exact crossover date is, so I'm making funny faces. Um, but that doesn't mean don't get involved in those action alerts. Then you still got to do it. Still got to push. We don't know when or if a vote will come. We know it voted out of the Senate last year. We'd like to see it done again this year, and we'd like to see it move through the House before mid-May when session basically ends. We'd like to see it passed by mid-May. All right, Chase the Pen is saying May, I believe, and you're right. I think the crossover date might be early May, and then but yeah, if we don't make crossover date, it doesn't go anywhere the rest of this year. Um, so I I'm not really going to take time to run through all the other bills at the moment. As you know, most of them we've discussed. All the ones that we're supporting have action alerts on our um, website. You can always go out and kind of take a look through there and then look a little bit closer at these bills if you'd like. But like I say, the big ones to me, I would love to see you move forward with on any action alerts that S211 deschedule at the state level, simple possession, basically possession of cannabis. That one actually helps set up growing and distribution. Um, that S211, like I mentioned, the one that's going to be on the ballot initiative, ballot question, and of course the medical ones. Don't forget those. As always, the veterans, support our veterans, and medical. But at the moment, that's it with state level stuff. Unless anybody has heard anything more, I do want to kind of mention while I'm looking, nothing in the comments, that we have been hearing more and more about raids on CBD hemp shops for like Delta 8 and for hemp flower. I believe some just happened not too long ago up in Colombia. We're trying to look into that a little bit more and address that how as best we can for a couple of volunteers just hanging out, shaking our fists at law enforcement, and at legislators. They're all basing this off of this opinion letter by the State Attorney General, Alan Wilson, and his opinion is incorrect. But so some of that stuff's going on. All right, Chase the Pendass, do we have another lobby day planned? At this point, we don't have one planned for this year. Our conversation before, actually, right as we were putting on our January lobby day, is to do a little bit of checking to see if we want to do basically the same time next January. If Wednesday morning was still the best time. But yeah, our goal is going to be, again, hit them early next year. I'd like to make it more like a week after they start than 2 weeks after they start session. But we still were a lot better than the 4 or 5 weeks out that we were last year. And my hope would be, because talking with Shane Bush and his group, they're planning on doing another rally up there next year. So maybe we can sort of coordinate it where we do our press conference and lobby day again as early in January as is feasible to address the legislators, and then plan as much participation in a rally or any rallies that might be there, and follow up that way. I really wouldn't mind trying to do a second lobby day, but I think it might now. I'm going to roll that back a moment. This year, we did a lobby day. Last year, we attempted, and I don't know how well it flew, but we attempted a lobby week with our press conference as sort of the centerpiece of that, and our visit to the state house as a piece of that. But what we did the year before was that we had like one day where we would say, hey, uh, you know, go out to our action alert and send an action alert to all your legislators. And then the next day we'd say, hey, we've got these postcards. Send postcards. Drop them in the mail. If you don't have our postcards, just write a little note. Drop it in the mail. Spend I don't remember what a stamp for a postcard is anymore. Probably 40 cents or so. You know, and then I think there was, the third day, pick up the phone and call their office, leave a message with their aides, So that's how we kind of played that lobby week that previous year. And I think next year I'd like to almost see us try that whole concept again. Again, I was pretty happy with our press conference and lobby this year, but not as happy with our media coverage from other sources besides our own. Okay. Uh, I'm seeing Chase Depends asking what committees are these bills in? And I don't have that. But if you go to scstatehouse.gov in the search bar, type the word marijuana on the radio buttons, push bills, and that will bring you all the bills that have the word marijuana in it. And you can kind of pretty much in the summary, it'll tell you what committees these are in. But yeah, offhand, I don't know what these are, and my little cheat sheet next to me isn't giving me that much information. I brought a little cheat sheet from home, but yeah, I will hopefully have some better information on some of that for you next week. Josh Griffin, let's see if I can share this one on the screen. We can always organize a day to stand at the State House in Columbia. I have signs. Josh has signs. Josh got a banner. Josh got some stuff there. So, yep. So we can definitely do. If anybody wants to schedule another day up there, you're welcome to do some rallying up there. I'm not sure if I'll be able to necessarily make it, but we will do our best to supply you with additional signs, brochures, things like that to hand out to folks. Josh, while we're talking and while you're on, I do want to throw it out there to you. Respond maybe a little later in the message. Could not get 420 at that particular pizza shop. I got 418 at the Whaley Street, I guess it's pronounced. Possibility of that if you might be interested in doing 418 as a preliminary to 420 and help us get a couple of people to volunteer at that one. No need to respond now. Think about it and message me later on if you would. And talking about that, I might as well roll right into some of the stuff that I included a little bit of in our newsletter, and we talked about pretty much last week, but we are looking at trying to get a little bit more active, a little bit more out in the community. Most of our board or board members are right in the Charleston area, so unfortunately, a lot of our stuff does kind of focus in Charleston or that area. If like Josh, who's more in the Columbia area, and we do have like a pizza shop that would be willing to do a percent night with just a volunteer there and not us bringing in a crowd to dine. If you know of a place similar to that or some other fundraising options in your community and you'd like to volunteer to help us organize something in those spots, definitely reach out to me because we are definitely trying to raise some funds this year so that we can maybe do some bigger events and bigger rallies. And, I mean, even with Josh, we've talked about some sort of music festival event sort of thing. We would love to see something like that happen at some point. So, but it takes money, it takes sponsors, and we're still a bunch of volunteers who half of us don't know what we're doing, and the other half of us know half of what we're doing, and the other half know the other half. I don't know. We're trying to figure it out. So, but we're getting there. So with that said, April is going to be an exciting month, I think, for us so far. If I didn't mention it last week, I will mention it tonight, but I think I did. The one thing I was kind of surprised for, we got approved to do a Krispy Kreme digital dozen donut sale fundraiser. What's interesting in this particular program is it is a buy the certificate online, not like you have to sign up to buy it and then we have to deliver some donuts to you. You sign up, you buy your donuts, your certificate online. You take that to any Krispy Kreme donut store in the nation. In the nation. California to New York, New Jersey, wherever you want to call it. Maine to, you know, coast to coast. Maine to Florida, Florida, Washington. I don't know. Anyway, my hope with some of that is that we get some of the folks that support our cause here in South Carolina, South Carolinians that may have moved to a legal state so they don't have to deal with the illegality of cannabis in South Carolina. And maybe they live near a Dunkin' Donuts and they say, hey, let's get some digital donut certificates to help support South Carolina NORML all the way over there in South Carolina, and we'll get our donuts here in Washington State, California, wherever you might be. The other thing, and I'm a little behind on it until I get back to my office, I'm hoping to get together a couple of signs similar to our free marijuana information signs that are have like the QR code and stuff for the donuts, and have a couple of volunteers maybe stand outside actual Krispy Kreme donut shops. We do have one here in the Charleston, one in like Mount Pleasant, not far from us, one I believe in Ladson, South Carolina. I think there's one in Columbia, and I think there's one near Myrtle Beach somewhere. Don't know where they all are, but there aren't a whole lot spread out in South Carolina, but there are some. So beyond that, our hope is that people will just buy extras, share them with friends, get them as gifts. We're hoping to sell 420 dozen donuts. So we'll see how that goes. I see Chase DePen says he's also in Columbia. May want to kind of chat with Josh a little bit because Josh does have some of our gear up there, and we are always looking to do like getting people out, starting. Eventually, when we get 4 good, dedicated people in the Columbia area, we're going to start a Columbia chapter. Just putting that out there. Okay, Chase Penn also says they think there's a Krispy Kreme up in Lexington. So, yeah, there's a few around the state. If we can get some volunteers in those communities, we'll ship them out a sign. Hopefully, they can take a few days through in the month to get out there and hold the sign and get a couple extra people to buy some donuts. Pass the sign to a friend who wants to stand out there for a day or so, an hour or 3 or whatever. We're working on it. So I don't want to say Dunkin', Krispy Kreme donuts coming in the month of April. I did share something else in the newsletter about April, and I forget exactly what. I know we got a couple things. Past 2 years, we've had the great folks at the Not Burger Pub in Somerville do a fundraiser for us, and their fundraiser is basically they had a special burger that was called the Munchie Burger. If you bought a Munchie Burger, they would donate $2 to South Carolina NORML. So for every one of those burgers they sold, we got $2. They also then had a couple like a mixed drink and I want to say like a beer, maybe like a Wicked Weed. And then the mixed drink, I loved it. It was called a liquid marijuana, and it was delicious. I really liked that one. For each one of the beverages, they donated $1. That was through the entire month. They have contacted us. They're willing. They're looking to support us again this year. Do their fundraisers again. They've also added a couple of other, I guess, fundraising options to it. I'm not sure what they are, but if you're in the Somerville area and you like a good burger and you like a good drink, the Not Burger Pub will be helping to support South Carolina NORML again this year. I expect to be there on either April 1st or April 2nd because it is real close to where the Flowertown Festival happens. And like last year, we stopped there at the Not Burger Pub, had a burger, had a couple of liquid marijuanas, walked down to the Flowertown Festival, which is a huge like craft and vendor and artisan fair. walk the alcohol out of my system so that when we got back to the car, I was safe to drive. And it was just a really nice experience. A good homey pub. Um, it's not highfalutin in any way. It's good down home uh, burger pub. So check them out. Um, Also, we are starting to put together uh, at the Knot probably 420 night or 422, but I have a feeling we may be at the Not Burger Pub on 420 for that evening. We did that last year. We had our gathering. We did some giveaways. We did raffle giveaways while we were there. So keep an eye out for that one. Keep an eye on our coming events section on our website at scnormal.org because that is starting to fill in. Um, I'm kind of blanking on other stuff for April, but I know we got a couple of other things we're working on. We're working on something at Low Tide Brewing on Johns Island. That might be on 422. Um, so watch out for that one. Also, I'm going to go out just a little bit further and beyond April and talk a little bit about, again, one of them falls in April, but some of it goes out a little bit further. April 22nd is another good example. We're not sure exactly. I know from noon to 4, we will be at the Bohemian Bowl on Folly Road on James Island in Charleston for their 420 market. After that, I'm not sure what we're doing. There is an event that day called the Cajun Festival at the James Island County Park. Um, we've talked about trying to get some folks out there. I have a feeling that we haven't gotten details on it, but I have a feeling we're going to have at least one person to be able to anchor out there. And we are not vendors. We are not going as sponsors or vendors. We're just going as spectators and inviting y'all to come and join us. Sit down, enjoy some music, tap your feet. Last year, I know the Charleston Hemp Company was there. Maybe that was Reggae Nights. But anyway, I think they were there at Cajun Fest as well. And they were selling like hemp flower buds and pre-rolls. But also added on to that, we don't have exact dates that I'm aware of. I've put some approximate dates out in June, July, August. I think it's like every third Friday is a reggae night. So there's Cajun Fest on April 22nd. And then starting in June, there's a couple of reggae nights, June, July, and into August. And they fall on a Friday night. I think they open the gates at about 7 o'clock and start the music playing at 7:30 or 8. South Carolina NORML plans on being there for a number of those Friday nights. Again, just as spectators. We're not going out as vendors. We're not going out as sponsors for the event. We're just going to show up. We're going to be wearing our T-shirts. We're probably going to have some of our signs around. We're going to put a couple of banners on our tent frame. So in case it rains or it's sunny or whatever it might be, we have some protection. So we will probably have some sort of a tent set up. And come on out and listen to some reggae music and dance and sing if you want. I sing sometimes. I love to sing. I'm horrible at it, but it doesn't stop me. Uh, Tacos for Tuesday 20. You are late, but we're thrilled that you made it. Thank you for coming. All right. Let me look at this time one more time. Oh my goodness, we're at freaking almost 10 of 8. Got to say hi to Nancy. Nancy, thank you for joining us. Oh, back. uh, and there's one other thing, and I'm not sure when we have it on the calendar yet. I think it's July. We will be doing a day at Folly Beach with a beach cleanup. So we'll be asking you all to come on out, hang with us for a while on the beach, take a walk on down the beach, and help us pick up some trash and garbage, and then come on back and hang out at our little tent area and enjoy the water and enjoy hopefully good weather. Um, I'm not sure if we nailed the date on this one yet, but I think it's for July. Keep an eye again on our coming events page for our beach cleanup day. Beyond that, we do have some of our board members working on a couple of other things that I may or may not be aware of. And also, I'm going to throw this out here because it sort of saddens me, but we are losing our our deputy director. She will be leaving us basically the end of May, and in early July, I believe, is leaving to New Zealand to continue her studies. Sounds very exciting. Um, but she's been such a benefit to us over the past couple of years that I know I'm going to miss her greatly. Um, she's been the one responsible for getting our newsletter out there most of the times over the past couple of years. So the reason I'm bringing this up, we are actively looking for a new board secretary. Our board secretary will be moving into our deputy director position as that position opens up. And we are looking for a new board secretary to come in. There will be joining us every Saturday morning or most Saturday mornings for our board meeting. They would be responsible for helping us get our newsletter out there every single month, maybe even expanding on the newsletter and making it more dynamic. Also being there to take our minutes and our notes during our meetings. That's the biggest, probably two jobs that our board secretary has, keeping our minutes, our notes, and keeping the newsletter, possibly also helping me in communicating and managing our email and communicating with folks in there. So very, very definitely looking out, going to be looking over the next couple of months for sure, see if we can fill that board secretary position. While I'm looking for one, begging for help, I might as well put out my regular as I do pretty often. I know some folks have filled out our volunteer form and I haven't gotten to them yet. I thought we had a volunteer coordinator kind of join our team about 2 months ago, and they've kind of gone quiet. I don't know if they've communicated with any of our other board members, but I have a feeling we may have lost them to some other activity they were involved in. So we're going to be, again, reopening our search for volunteer coordinator and also reopening our search for event coordinators. Volunteer coordinator, event coordinator, board secretary. Board secretary has a little bit more responsibility, of course, meeting weekly. Our board members are required to be both members of our local chapter and the national chapter, where our volunteers and coordinators just need to be members of our local chapter and not national. So volunteers, always looking for volunteers and help. Last but not least, before we kind of wrap things up, I might as well just do the plea of please join us. Your membership dues help support our activities throughout the year. The more people that we have as members, the more I think legislators will take us seriously. Um, Also, we are trying to develop new sponsorship programs. We're going to be looking for um, Cannabis Conversation sponsors, 25 bucks a week, newsletter sponsors, probably haven't figured out exactly what the monthly fee on the newsletter sponsors will be. And moving on from there, we'll be developing some other sponsorship opportunities to promote businesses in the state that support our cause. All right, not too bad, 7:54, maybe even a couple of minutes early that we might get done. Before I finish, I'm just going to kind of put it out there to y'all. Questions, comments, thoughts, concerns, critiques, let me have it. Um, put something in the comments and let's see where we go. Otherwise, I got no trivia tonight. All at home. I got none of that. But I'll give it a couple minutes as there you go. I know. Trivia question. Sorry, darling. No trivia tonight. Like I say, when I get back home, when I get into my office again, we will definitely have trivia again next week. Um, but yep, no trivia tonight. All right. I think that we're going to be able to call it. Laugh at me. I deserve it. All right. Um, 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 that's all I got for you tonight, guys. I think that's it. Again, don't forget those action alerts. Uh, that's the best we can do right now is just really kind of keep harping on our legislators. I must admit, I was at a festival on Folly Beach a couple of weeks ago. When I get back back to my office, I definitely want to follow up. I sent out one contact, but I'm going to follow up on a contact down there that I met. I think may be able to help us um, start a voter initiative. We have petitions already to decrim Folly Beach, and this person might be able to help us actually get those signatures and get it moving. I'm hoping so. So keep an eye out for that because I would really love to see the city of Folly Beach be the first city in South Carolina to decriminalize simple possession. So keep an eye. I think we might see that coming sometime. I don't know if we'll get it on this year, but we might. All right, that's it. I'm going to call it. Thank you again for joining me. As always, we will be back here again next Wednesday at 7 p.m. for the Cannabis Conversation. In the meantime, follow our Facebook page. We're a little bit more active there. But also, we do post some on our Instagram and our Twitter. And big thing is, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and click that notification bell so that you get notified when the Cannabis Conversation is on. All right. Thank you, folks. We will see you next week. Bye bye now.